Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I greet you all according to your time and locations you'll be meeting this video. Yes, my dear viewers, I am back again with another update. So guys, I have a video here I would like we all to watch. But before then, if you're meeting my channel for the very first time, you're highly welcome. Please kindly do well to like, share and subscribe. Leave your thought on the comment section. Let us know what you think about this video, and I will see you towards the end.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Please. Man. Marketers, the major oil marketers of Nigeria. And you know what that means when we say oil marketers. And you know their significance and importance in this environment, in our society, especially now with what is happening with the deregulation policy of this government. The effectiveness of it and the impact that it has or is going to have on every one of us. So today, following the subsidy removal and the deft management of the fallout by Mr. President, the marketers, oil marketers, paid the president a courtesy visit this afternoon and expressed solidarity with the president on this very proficient policy of subsidy removal, the efficiency of it and the management of it, and more importantly, the promise of Mr. President to look into the alleviation of the impact of this policy on the poorest of the poor in the society. So I will now hand you over to the association, the Marketers, Oil Marketers Association, led by the governor of Ogun State, who was the chairman of this association, and by virtue of his being a member, or was a member, we can't say he's a member anymore, was a member, a very prominent one. He has graciously led the association to Mr. President.
I want to thank Mr. Lucky for that brief introduction. I'm sure most of you are wondering what is the governor of Ogun State doing with the major marketers and the depot and petroleum marketers association of Nigeria. Well, like Mr. Lucky said, I was the chairman of the marketers for several years, and that was the position I held until I became governor of Ogun State. And my role today was to facilitate the meeting between the marketers and Mr. President, because at the same time I was also the chairman of the National Economic Council Subcommittee on Oil and Gas. So that was the reason why Mr. President had discussed with me on interfacing with marketers, and I, of course, promptly volunteered to facilitate this meeting. Again, I want to publicly also join others in appreciating our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, for the very bold and decisive decision to remove the subsidy on premium metal spirits that we call petrol. This decision he took on his first day in office. I believe that that on its own was a very clear indication of his leadership, of his determination to rid Nigeria of this massive elephant that been a problem, that had caused us to hemorrhage for several years. A problem that preceding governments had contemplated but were unable to tackle. This problem, we all know, has become a 4 trillion naira per annum problem, to the point where we were becoming big brothers to our neighbors by subsidizing all the countries along, the West, the West African sub-region. So of course, we know that there will be associated issues. Like they say, there's no gain without some pain. The marketers have come today to solidarize with Mr. President, and the chairman of the marketers will share with you some of the details that ensued in the course of that meeting. But permit me to just say that for us as governors, we see this as a step in the right direction. We definitely solidarize with Mr. President. We stand by him in this policy. Since July of last year, when NNPC became a corporate organization, they have not put a penny into the Federation account. In fact, they were threatening that Federation will soon begin to write checks to NNPC. So this has affected states adversely. And we are confident that once this 4 trillion naira per annum burden is, out of the window, it would enhance, our faculty allocations as different states. And because of that, I'm sure you've all have seen what different states have begun to do in partnership and in support of this policy. Some states have reduced the number of days workers are coming to work from 3 to 4 days. Others have introduced different interventions. We want to call it interventions, not palliatives, because that word has been abused. But the truth is that those are immediate term and stopgap interventions. Some of us are looking at enhancement of minimum wage. Mr. President has announced today that NEC should immediately begin to sit, led by His Excellency the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, and the committee of NEC alongside, with the economic team and marketers should sit down and come up with a wholesome approach that will be beneficial to the common man and generality of Nigerians. But, in completeness, like I said, whatever it is we do today, be it a minimum wage increase, be it transport allowance, be it provision of any form of intervention, are only stopgaps. What we need to look at that will be sustainable will be, we need to begin to look at an energy transition, for the whole country, where we having appreciated the fact that we can no longer power our vehicles with either diesel at the prices or with petrol. We need to begin to look at what obtains in other countries, like Egypt, that's right here on the continent, where they have converted all their mass transit to run on CNG. In some other countries, their vehicles are running on either CNG or running on electricity. So these would be what would be sustainable, that would allow us to transport people, goods, and services at prices that are reasonable. So that is the kind of thing that we are looking at, the kind of discussion that we are having with the president, and the kind of approach that this administration is looking at in terms of sustainability. On that note, I will hand over the microphone to Mrs. Akpani to share with you the details of their discussion with Mr. President this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State. I thank you all for your patience this afternoon. He has touched on most of the issues, really. But I just want to add that, most importantly, this was a courtesy visit. It was a visit to express our utmost support and solidarity with the government. That is born out of the fact that we have desired, we have ached, we have prayed for this day to come. And we're happy that the day is finally here. We know the difficulties this move has created for the populace. We know what the reactions have been. And one thing we have vowed is that we're going to help the government to disseminate the right information on what this is all about. It's not simply about making transportation more expensive. It's not simply about making fuel so expensive and it's suddenly out of the reach of the ordinary person, so to say. It's about repositioning this country. I think Nigeria has suffered for too long. It's about putting your money in the right place. We spent maybe 4 trillion last year. He said 4 trillion this year. No, for the first 3-4 months already, we were at about 2.7 trillion in subsidy. By the end of this year, we would have been at about 6.7 trillion. How much of that really goes to the populace? We have been feeding the whole West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa with fuel. Since last week, Monday, and it's difficult to believe that it's only 10 days that this happened. If you check, all those neighboring countries have all their prices shot up. Probably maybe Niger is the cheapest one with about 580 per liter because they were all feeding on Nigerian fuel. But that's not to say that because others are benefiting, they're benefiting wrongly. Nigeria cannot be subsidizing the whole of Africa when we have a lot of our own problems. So we came today to express our support and to see how we can cooperate with government, because ultimately, you can't kill the people you are trying to save. So we're not going to sit back and say, hey, yes, you have removed subsidies, so it's fine. There are aches, there are pains. What can we all do? There are suggestions we have made today on how we can really move this forward. And one thing that came out is that over time, we have all depended on PMS because it was cheap. We didn't develop our gas. There's electricity. So we have alternate sources of energy. It doesn't have to be PMS. Now suddenly, we now realize that, look, we have gas in abundance. There was no fresh investment. Nobody is going to invest in an economy that is not free. You are going to have restrictions. Since maybe July last year, I don't think NNPC has paid anything to the Federation account. As a matter of fact, they were actually going to start billing the Federation because they were spending more on subsidy than they were earning. So these are the problems, and that's why we said it was important for the government to understand that we do support and we are very willing and able to help Nigeria transit this situation. The president did listen to us very graciously, and it was interesting because we all suddenly remember that he's an accountant first and foremost. He asked and he interjected with very, very intelligent questions, and he understood what we meant by saying we want a complete free market. Free market, we want to have one exchange rate so people can stop trading in dollars. If we have free exchange rates, then we can compete in importation, compete in licensing and having refineries running. These are the things we need to get right. We have gone through so many years of no fresh investments. All you ever see are new depots being built. And why is that? Because that's all it takes. If you do that, then you become a marketer and you can begin to sell fuel. But no. And we also try to explain that whereas you were buying 20,000 metric ton parcel for 4 billion naira, today you have to pay 12 billion naira. So it's also important to recognize the fact that the pain is not only for the populace. For the marketers, we're going to see mergers. We're going to see some, unfortunately, will have to drop off because that's a lot of money. How many banks can really fund you? But that's also not to say that we're going to have scarcity, no. finally we're going to have our real volumes. We're going to stop, we have stopped feeding most of Africa. Already, the volumes have dropped. And it's not only because you're saying we can't afford transportation. It's only the man who has a Jeep that will spend 70,000 naira now to fuel his car. The man who doesn't have a car doesn't have to worry about that. All he needs is transportation. And to that extent, we recognize the fact that we have to have an effective.
So guys, thank you so much for watching. What do you think about this video? Please kindly drop your thought on the comment section. I'll see you again in my next one. Bye for now.